Awesome. So, like I was giving the introduction, I have a good number of people from different sectors that are in my different programs and especially mentorship programs. And I started learning a lot that many people get to confuse, especially the men, what they are supposed to do to rise to the place of impact, influence, and income. And why is this peculiar to men? This is peculiar to men because every man has something known as ego. Every human being has ego, but you see, man, oh my goodness. I was advising one of my mentees who was supposed to get married, and I said, look, if you can master how to manage the ego of a man, you always be a good wife. Right? Because every man has an ego. It is in every man to dominate. Are women included? Yes. But it is in every man to dominate. It is in every man. There is that hunger in every man to rule. There is that desire in every man to stand out. Every man has it. For some men, they have it, but they allow this perspective of being an introvert to kill that or to overshadow that desire. But inside of them, they are always feeling incomplete, or they always feel as if there is something I am not doing, or I should be doing that I am not doing. So when I noticed this drive and that many people did not know the pathways to take to become men of impact, influence, and income in their generation, I started doing a research. I started doing a study. And one thing I like to do is that when I want to comment on something, one thing I'm fond of doing is that I like to go back like sometimes 200 years backward, 300 years backward. I'll begin to study who are the men that shifted their generation in the 1700s, in the 1800s, in the 1900s. And what did they do? And looking at the context that they were operating in, and yet they disrupted their generation. And what can we do now in order to be different in our generation? So, for the next 3 days, I will share with you things that I strongly believe and I know from experience. Because some of these things I'll teach with you, there are things I've also used in private coaching and consulting with men that matter, from politics to business to whatever sector, even to religious leaders, or what you can call pastors, apostles, prophets, right? And we have seen tremendous impact in what they do. And for those who are not Christians, I did a ministry known as Professionals and Entrepreneurs Fellowship, over 1,700 plus people now, and they are mostly business owners, professionals from different sectors, and top people in different things that they do, or almost all phases of life. Those who are starting, those who are in the middle, those who are at the top of what they're doing. And these are things that some of them we get to work one on one, and I get to use some of these things to counsel them and work with them. And I've seen tremendous impact in what they are doing. So, what I'm going to teach you is not theory, it's practical, it is relatable, it is something that if you pick and run with it, your life will change for good. Now, I am currently reading a book, and I decided I will share the soft copy of that book in the WhatsApp group only, where the men are. The book is what you can call John D. Rockefeller's letters to his son, right? John D. Rockefeller was a billionaire, one of the first billionaires, in his time. And he wrote a couple of important letters to his son until today, hundreds of years after. The Rockefeller family is still one of the most wealthiest families, in the world. But he wrote a couple of important letters to his son. And there are a few key things he mentioned there, like a man communicating to another man. Among the few things he spoke in that letter, he said, And let not forget the importance of influence and power. Very important statement. A father talking to a son in a letter. And let not forget the importance of influence and power. But then he continued and said, simply having the privilege or education is not enough. You see, there are many privileged people. For example, let's take it to the basics. One privilege you can have is that if you were born in a stable family where you have a father, a mother, all of them are working and they can fend for themselves and see you through school, that is a privileged family. It doesn't matter your financial status as a family. But if you were born in a family where it's stable, the marriage is good, and all the two couples can work, that is a privilege. You know why? Because there are other kids that they were born and abandoned in an orphanage. There were others raised by single parents. Just giving an example of privilege, right? We have different privileges. But in this letter, John D. Rockefeller, a billionaire, an oil mogul, a big man in his time, about to transfer his legacy to his son. He says, simply having privilege and education is not enough. It's like because you were born in a rich family or because you went to a good school, that is not enough. And he said, we need to harness our knowledge and use it to make a difference in the world. And you see, every man has access to knowledge. You have access to some form of knowledge. It could be technology, agriculture, building, what have you. You have access to some form of knowledge. It could be spiritual knowledge. As a Christian leader, you have some form of knowledge. But one thing that will cause a shift in your generation is that you have the capacity to harness that knowledge and use it to make a difference in your world as a person. And that is when you become a man of impact, influence, and income. I'm still laying the introduction of where we're going to. Because without your ability to begin to harness it, you cannot make a difference. And then in that letter, he said, so let us go out there and make things happen because we have the power to create our own destinies. That is the man talking to the son. You have to go out there. You have to take the responsibility to make things happen because you have the power to create your own destiny. And then part of that letter, he said something that can sound very harsh, but very important. He said, there are educated people who are unaffected people, who are a pile of worthless garbage. Let me say it again. He said, the educated, but unaffected people are a pile of worthless garbage. Very, very, harsh statement. He said, if you are educated in any level at any form, and your education, what you know, whether you have acquired through formal education or informal education, if that thing that you acquired as knowledge still keeps you as someone who you cannot affect anybody apart from you, you are a pile of worthless garbage. I started thinking through this statement and meditating on this statement. He was literally saying, being educated, but being unaffected about your education. He was referring to people, despite what you know, despite what you have acquired as knowledge, if you remain indifferent in your generation, you're a worthless pile of garbage. If you are emotionally indifferent, if you are morally indifferent, when it comes to value creation and you are indifferent, you are a good example of a pile of worthless garbage who acquired education, but yet you cannot use your education, whatever form, formal or informal, to affect your own life and the lives of other people. That also means that when you come through to a summit like this and you gather information, you gather knowledge, you gather revelation, and if you cannot take action in the face of human need to begin to harness your knowledge to create impact, you are a pile of worthless garbage. Now, why is this important? We have gathered here in this summit where we have termed it Gentlemen of Impact, Influence, and Income. Now, why is that important? Because you can never become a person of impact, influence, and income if you are not able to harness what you know to address things in your generation as a person. I was talking to my mentees in a meeting and I said, proof of learning is the actions you take after learning. You see, if you sit on this call right now, you fully participate in this summit right now, and you go back in what you do, and what you learn does not cause a shift in your routine, in your lifestyle, in the quality of man that you have become, you were entertained, you did not learn. Because when you go through entertainment, nothing changes in your life. But when you go through learning, there should be a change in your life. Not just a change in theory, no, a change in maybe the way you live life. Your daily routines should change because of what you learned. Your daily habits should shift because of what you learned. The quality of the input that you bring into your life should begin to change the quality of outputs that you generate because you learned. So there are many people who read books and they kind of make noise that, oh, I have read 10 books a year. I've read this a year. But if you go and read the books that they read and check the quality of their life after reading that book, nothing changed. No, you were entertained. You did not learn. Because true learning should shift something in the quality of your lifestyle. So, what am I saying? We have gathered here as men from different sectors and different countries. If after these 3 days of this gentleman summit of influence, impact, and income, and there is no shift in core areas of your life, you were entertained. You did not learn. Because learning should cause a shift. We need to avoid being a pile of worthless garbage, like what John D. Rockefeller was saying to the son in the book Rockefeller's Letters to His Son. There need to be a shift. We need to beat that lifestyle that leads us to the path of uselessness despite potential. Have you seen people like that? You're like, you are so full of potential. Why are you useless at the same time? Why are you not able to contribute, inspire, and transform at the highest level despite what I see that you have? There must be a shift. There must be a shift. If you are ready for a shift, can you type in the chat box, set for a shift? You're ready for a shift? Type set for a shift because you need to make that decision. Type set for a shift. Now, as we get into the core focus for day one, the foundation of, as a believer, the foundation of every strategy I've ever taught, from business to leadership, even politics, counseling people in politics, always come from the Bible, right? There's this scripture in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 2. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 2. The Bible says, a good man obtains favor from God, but the wicked man but a man of wicked intentions he will condemn. I want to focus on the first statement. A good man obtains favor from the Lord. I did a deep research on the Hebrew word good, and I was trying to find some things that are hidden in that word. A good man obtains favor from God. I started studying and I came to some discoveries that the Hebrew word that is translated good in this scripture also refers to a beneficial man, a beneficial man, a man who is beneficial to others in his generation, in his time, will obtain favor from God. And when you look at that word favor, it talks about advancement. It also communicates that God, in his divine power, will orchestrate opportunities for your advancement and elevation because you have become a man who is beneficial in his generation. Another phrase that describes the Hebrew word good in that scripture talks about being pleasant to senses. That means if you are a man that you can create value, you can do things that can communicate pleasantness to others in your generation, you will find favor from God. What does that mean? There are many men there here that you are into fashion. If you can design a dress and produce a dress that I can see with my eyes, because every man, every human being, they have senses. They feel, they see, they touch, they taste, and so on. That scripture is also saying that it says a good man obtains favor from the Lord. It's like saying a man who can create value that can be pleasant as far as the senses of human beings are concerned, that man will obtain favor from God. And that relates us or brings us back to the focus of this summit. Because you see, if you will become a gentleman of impact, influence, and income in your time, you must master the art of being able to create value as a man to the highest level that can bring some pleasantness when somebody sees it, when somebody hears it, when somebody tests it, when somebody feels it, whatever. But if the value that you create can communicate some form of pleasantness to people in your generation, you will rise to be a man of impact, influence, and income. There needs to be a shift that will change your destiny. So, day one, I want to teach on the contagiousness of habits in raising men of impact, influence, and income, or in destroying potential men of impact, influence, and income. Now, why this concept of the contagiousness of habit started for me as a person about 3 years ago when I was reading a book, and that book was talking about the man who created impact. It was a private book, so it's not found in public spaces. And in this book, they were doing an analysis of top kings, empire leaders, and military generals during the season where the world was still being ruled by empires, like the time of the Spanish Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the British Empire, and so on. And in that book, among many other things that were communicated, it communicated how there were some military generals, there were some kings and empire leaders that rose to the highest levels in their quest for dominion around the world because these people practice this concept, I now call it the contagiousness of habit, where they noted that the generals and the leaders, and they were 99% men, right, who disrupted their generation in across their various empires, they were able to assimilate or bring together a body or set of habits that differentiated them from other people in their times. Same as I came across discoveries of other leaders, politicians, military generals who were destroyed and did not rise to their highest level as far as destiny is concerned because the contagiousness of habits that they developed also destroyed them. So, there was a particular general in the Spanish Empire that he was destroyed because his habit of drinking started like a joke. And before he knew it, drinking went into drugs. And drugs went into him being, a womanizer per se. And the contagiousness of the habit of drinking to drugs to womanizing led to him being set up by a prostitute and, of course, being destroyed. And he did not end up manifesting his full potential. But I'm taking us deeper into this contagiousness of habits because I also want to show you how I came across a research where it was communicating how the wealthiest families in the world, how they raise their kids. And there is one thing that they do in how they raise their kids to maintain wealth, influence, and impact, even though they have died out. Like I started by reading a letter that John D. Rockefeller wrote to the son. And hundreds of years after, the family is still powerful. It's not guesswork. It's not assumption. No. These men understood the game of power. They understood the game of impact and influence. And let me tell you, if you are going to be a man and whatever you're building, whatever industry, whatever nation you are in, there are things that if you don't understand how to implement, you can work so hard after 30 years and there's still nothing to show for as a builder. You cannot boldly say that you're a prosperous person or you're a person of impact, influence, and wealth, not because you did not work hard, but because you were ignorant of the different power moves that make men in their generation. Last Thursday, we had a detailed teaching where I was teaching on the 8 ways that anybody can follow to rise to the place of power. And I was talking mainly about political power and, of course, economic power. There are 8 ways that if you follow, you can rise to become a powerful person in your nation. And those are things that an average person does not know. An average man does not know. But in whatever you do as a man, like I always say, as a man, if you are not having discussions around power, wealth, prosperity, influence, impact, there's something missing in your life as a man. Women, you are included, but of course, this is men's summit. I'm addressing men in particular, right? Because those are things you have to know how they work. Because if you don't know how they work, I guarantee you, somebody will use it against you. So you should either be a man of character and build influence, power, prosperity, and wealth, and use it for the good of humanity, or somebody who lacks character, because there are very good men with good character but broke and no influence and no impact. But there are people who have no character but have mastered the art of power, influence, and impact, and they're using it against humanity. They're using it against humanity. So, in answering the question, what are the core things that if I understand as a man, and if other men can understand and begin to wield and practice and do it the right way, it will take them to the place of power, impact, influence, and income. And one of those things I came to conclude was understand the practical concept of the contagiousness of habit. Because I read stories, I read journeys, I read processes. How did these men become billionaires? How did these men become a force to reckon with in politics, in government, in technology, in whatever sector? How did they do that? That's why I'm never impressed about the glory. When I see somebody doing big, I want to talk to you. Tell me the private part. Tell me what are the things you did behind the scene that contributed to your public performance. Because trust me, everything you see in public is a performance. It's a performance based on the private systems that they have established that contributed to who they are in public. It's due to my work in consulting and coaching. I get to sit with some people who have done some amazing things in life. And when I sit with them and we talk, I'm like, I celebrate you for what you have done, but tell me something that the public does not know. And of course, due to my work, I'm always privy enough to have access to things that you never find in books, right? Or on social media. But some of them I'll begin to teach in this 3 days program because I am very passionate about raising men that can command influence and impact in their time. So the contagiousness of habits, I guarantee you, if you can pick this concept practically and run with it, it will redefine the rest of your life for good. It doesn't matter the industry you are in. It doesn't matter what you do. And it doesn't matter the location. It doesn't matter the stage of life you are in right now. See, there are some things that the moment you know and begin to execute, it redefines the rest of your life for good and literally makes you forget the suffering you have went through. And like I always say, true knowledge should reduce your suffering. When you access revelation, when you access new ideas, when you access new perspectives, they should be able to reduce your suffering. Why? Because anywhere light enters, darkness gives way. When you enter a room where it was dark and you switch on the light, darkness disappears immediately. Suffering is darkness. Living a life where you're not impacting anybody, you're not influencing your generation, you're not building wealth and prosperity at whatever level is some form of suffering. But there's more you can bring to the table. The contagiousness of habits. For every man listening to me, there is an invisible network that is either ruining or rewiring your destiny. And that invisible network is the contagiousness of habits. A set of habits that you have developed either consciously or unconsciously. And this invisible network of habits is either ruining you as a man or rewiring you every day for destiny manifestation, for impact, and for influence. And habits are contagious. Why? What does that mean? Every habit attracts a flock of its relatives. Every habit will attract a flock of its relatives. The habit of doing anything that is useless will always lead to the formation of other habits that are useless. That's why if you see somebody, let's say somebody who is addicted to drugs, for example, you always notice that maybe the person is also an alcoholic or a smoker, right? Or doing some funny things that are literally useless in that pipeline. And it's the same as the habit of doing anything that is of high value will always lead to the formation of other habits that are useful for your destiny. Like I always fondly say, show me somebody who is, let's say, addicted or develops the habit of always reading. Before you know it, you'll start writing. And show me somebody who likes to write. Before you know it, you will start reading. Because habits are contagious in nature. And when you begin to practice this from the place of that revelation and consciousness, you will intentionally now make sure that you infuse it into your life. Because the quality of whatever you produce in public will be dependent on the quality of your private system that you have developed over time. Anybody you celebrate on social media, on TV, on radio, on whatever newspaper or magazines that you celebrate and you honor or you desire to be like or to perform like, what you see at that level is just a manifestation of a private system that they have established. You get the perspective. And when you study kings, when you study empire leaders, when you study military leaders, when you study business magnates across different industries, when you study politicians from the last few hundred years to present, one thing you will see is that those who ended up in destruction, they went through that pathway because of the contagiousness of habits that they did not tame. And those who rose up to the highest levels of manifestation, they also manifested that because of the contagiousness of habit. Why is this important? Because when you have chosen the path of influence, the path of impact, and the path of being a prosperous person, a prosperous man, habits significantly influence your human behavior and your destiny. They will always influence you. They will always influence you. They will always influence you because habits significantly influence human behavior and destiny. Many people who have this understanding, they begin to treat it as a core element as far as their lifestyle is concerned. While doing a deeper research on this topic some months back, I came across good articles by there's a platform known as Psychology Today, and then of course the popular Harvard Business Review. And these two popular platforms, they confirmed that habits tend to cluster. Habits tend to develop habit after habit. They tend to trigger a cascade of similar behaviors. And after interviewing and researching and observing men who disrupted their generation and industries, they noticed that among other things that these men were good at and they did, one thing they discovered was that there was a cascade of similar behaviors that these men developed over time that formed them and turned them into major men in their generation. Take productivity habits, for example. Establishing the habit of daily writing creates discipline that naturally will spread into related productive habits. Because in psychology, they discovered that forming one habit will strengthen neural pathways that will begin to boost adjacent habits. That's why when you see somebody with some terrible habits or one terrible habit, I guarantee you, if you observe that person, you see several terrible habits in the pipeline. Same as you see somebody with excellent habits. If you study that person and observe that person, you will see several good other habits in the pipeline. Why? Because when you form one good habit, it begins to strengthen certain neural pathways in your brain that will begin to boost adjacent behaviors around the same area of your life that will turn you into a man of destiny. Why? Because each habit will give birth to a related behavior effortlessly. Effortlessly. For example, for many of you who read for me, especially on my newsletter and maybe LinkedIn and maybe WhatsApp channel and broadcast list, you see, the things I write and I share in public, I don't write to share. I don't create content to share, especially writing content. It is just a spiral, you know, how do I put this? A byproduct. Why? Because in 2011, I read a book and it says that if I want to be an effective thinker, I want to be an effective thought leader, the more I write, the more I train my brain to think effectively and see things from different dimensions. So from 2011, I made a challenge that every day I will write an article of anything of at least 300 words. From then till now, that's the habit I maintain. And that what I read definitely proved. You see, there is no platform, there is no place you can put me or have not, I will not have something to say. Oh, I'll tell you that, oh, my thoughts are not in order. No, my thoughts are always in order any day, anytime. Any day, anytime. Because the more you write, it has the capacity in training your brain to think in different dimensions and different levels. But you see, it is just the habit of writing, but it has cascaded into contributing to other mental skills that if I was not writing, I know that I would have never developed those skills. You get the concept? And that's why from research, I learned that there is a particular system that wealthy families use to raise their kids. And I'll talk about that very soon. And that's why I want you to get this. Because you see, families that have stayed powerful and wealthy, they did not stay there by guesswork. No. If you get close to them, you'll be amazed at the systems, the structures, the frameworks that they have put in place to ensure that wealth, power, influence stay in their family and put them in the position of leading in their generation. It's a conscious focus, a conscious system, a conscious manifestation. You see, so when you begin to operate from that consciousness, from that revelation, you begin to also not just be a person with the right habits, but you become the person that can attract high impact opportunities. Why? Because there is always a direct consequence to your ability to create value when you have the right private system, which habit is part of that system. So, establishing the right discipline, establishing the right habit as a man. You see, now this topic is important because the, the challenge for many human beings is that they chase impact, influence, and income, feeling that those things happen on their own. No, no. Impact, influence, and income does not happen in thin air. And it's not popularity. You can certainly become popular, but you can never suddenly become a person of impact, influence, and income. It doesn't work like that. This is why you can see so many social media influencers, but they are broke. Their pages have 100,000 followers, but they still struggle financially. They cannot sit in certain rooms and decide destinies of nations, destinies of communities. They cannot do that because you can suddenly become popular. Like I always say, a young lady can post a half naked picture and get 1,000 likes and 1,000 comments. In that day, she suddenly became popular, but she commands no influence. She commands no impact because you don't suddenly become a person of impact, authority, and influence. No, you don't do that. It's an architectural process. It's a focus building pathway that you must not just do it from the place of guesswork, but you must do it consciously and with strategy. You get the perspective. So, establishing the discipline that can lead you to habit development is a major thing that you have to pay the price to do. You have to pay the price to do. You have to pay the price to do. Now, I was having a discussion with a very influential, successful man. Understand this. If you get this, it will shift you forever. It hits me hard. I was like, I can see it right now. In this discussion, he said, Joybert, the top tier achievers in different industry, they stack habits or they practice what he called multi-domain habit orchestration. I will explain. He said, every achiever, every top tier achiever, tier one achiever, top 1% achiever in any industry, they stack habits across four key areas. He said physical habits, cognitive habits, relational habits, and spiritual habits. And he said they make sure that these habits work together in synergy to create compounding effects in what they do. For example, he said, have you noticed that it was in one of the cities in the United States? Have you noticed that every billionaire or millionaire or influential person in this city, they have the habit of going to the gym, and they go to gyms in particular locations? I said, yes. He said, that's an example of stacking habits, where these successful men and women, they stack habits across what? They have physical habits, cognitive habits, relational habits, and spiritual habits. And these habits have a synergy the way they function in working with each other. So he said, top tier one achievers, wealthy people, influential people, the habit of going to the gym falls under physical habit. And they go to particular gyms and particular locations because they know that in those gyms, they're going to meet other top tier achievers, which now falls under relational habit. You see? So they make sure that they pair their habits because they understand that in order to stay as a top tier one achiever, top 1% across industries, across sectors, it's not by accident. No, they need to form a synergy of habit that will enable them to keep on manifesting and producing results at that level. And they said, do you now see why I always like us to have coffee in a particular location? He said, look, it's not just about coffee. When I'm making a decision of where to eat, where to take breakfast, or where to drink coffee, where to have a business meeting, I make those decisions in a particular place, in a particular location. Because it's not about luxury. It's about the relational habit that I'm priming and building because of the people I'm going to meet in that particular location. Stacking habits across key areas in your life. Because you see, historical evidence have proven that habits either build or bury legacies. And that's why one of my personal conclusions is that as a man at any level in your life, one thing you must never allow unguarded, a set of elements in your life you must never allow unguarded are your set of habits. You can never rise above that. Your habits are either building you for influence or they are burying your legacy. There is no middle ground. They are building your influence or they are burying your legacy. Because history offers clear evidence. You will see empire people, military leaders, politicians, business moguls, that they did not end up manifesting the fullness of their potentials and plans because a habit destroyed them. A habit they did not tame, a habit they did not train. I have a question for you. Those private habits, those things you do in private, are they building your legacy or are they burying your legacy? The funny thing is, the burial may not happen right away. It can take 5 years. But the day the wrong cascading of habits, the day they merge together, there'll be a boomerang effect that may literally bury you for life. The same as there are many of us here right now. There are some private habits that you have been practicing, and you feel as if, where is this even taking me? The day the golden moment will come, you will see the significant impact of those particular things that you have been doing. So after this summit, especially after this day one, many of us gentlemen in this call right now will have to practice what the elite army group, they always do known as AAR. I will explain. I like to watch military movies or military documentaries sometimes because there's a way military men think and execute that it just marvels me. Right? I read a lot of military books, related books in that light. And the military unit, I think, is the is a navy, especially in the American military system. They have this system known as AAR, after action review. After action review. And if you're somebody who watches military movies, you often hear about something popular known as debriefing, like FBI movies, CIA movies. Like they will send an agent for a mission, a task. When they come back, let me debrief you, right? If you have watched 24 Hours, Jack Bauer, right? Very good movie. After every mission or whatever happens, they will debrief an agent and things like that. You see, why am I taking us in that light? After this day one, many people need to go and do a debriefing meeting with themselves. Have a meeting between you, yourself, and yourself. Sit down and have an after action review meeting with yourself. Because growth never happens without debriefing. And I was reading a book, and they said that in the Navy, when they have this meeting, they will ask 4 questions. What was supposed to happen? So what objective did we have going for this mission? That's the first question. What was supposed to happen in this mission? Second question, what did happen? Third question, why did it happen that way? And fourth question, how can we improve the next mission? Now, how does this relate to you as a man of influence, impact, and income? What is supposed to happen in your destiny as a man? Sit and answer that question. And currently, what is happening? And why is my life happening the way it is happening? And how can I improve? And there's one thing I'll guarantee you, that when you answer those questions, majority of your decisions will take you back to your private system of habits. If this is challenging you so far, can you write the word challenge in the chat box or in the comment section? Go ahead. If this is challenging you so far, thank you to those who are on YouTube for your comments. You're here on Zoom, go ahead. If you are being challenged, if there's a shift happening, give me some feedback. All right, I see challenge, I see big challenge. Awesome. Give me that feedback. Let me know that it's making sense to you. Okay. Now, before I talk about how to form habits that will shift your destiny as a man, it's not what you know. You need to learn this. You see, due to my work, I get to access some things that are not very, very popular in public. And I was having a discussion, and somebody revealed to me what a particular wealthy, powerful family always do. I will not call the family name because this is also a public video, right? But if I was having a private meeting with, in a consultation session, I'll mention the family's name, but I will not say it. But I'll explain what they do. But when you see long-lived families, like long-lived legacies, like, the Rothschild families, the Walton families. If you don't know these families, I'm calling the Koch family. You can go Google search the wealthiest families in the world and just read their story, right? But one of these families, from insider information, listen carefully, they have a system where they coach their heirs, men especially, because the women will mostly always get married to other families. But they have a system, listen carefully, that they coach the men in these families who will take over their father's businesses or keep on maintaining the wealth of these families. They have a system that they have created to coach the young men in these families, a proven ritual system, a proven tamed system to coach the young men in these families to tame their appetite and to build kingly habits. So in this particular family, they have a structured system. They call it the ritual playbook for their kids. If you are born in that family, as a young man in that family, you must go through this system. And the main aim of that system is to tame your appetite and to establish what they call kingly habits, habits that you only find among kings. They will train you to tame your appetite for women, to tame your appetite for unnecessary popularity and fame. They will tame you to tame your appetite for alcohol. Yes. That's why, like I always say, there are some things that you only see under the masses doing it. You will hardly see a kid from a rich family doing certain kind of things. You hardly see. You only see mainly people in entertainment and the masses. Look at the way they drink alcohol in Cameroon. Look at the way people look at the way people chase fame on social media. Look at the way, young ladies will post half naked pictures to get likes at all costs. You'll never see guys from influential families doing that. No, not because they want to protect the family name. No, it's beyond that. They have been trained to tame certain appetite. Because these families also know. Because, like in this John D. Rockefeller's letter to the son, I think he said that just about 9% of people that inherit or grew up in wealthy families end up being wealthy. Why? Because many families, many fathers and mothers, they will build wealth and they will hand the wealth to kids they have not trained. You see, now why am I sharing this? Because many of us are not from wealthy families here, because if you were, you will not be in this call right now, right? So, but if you will rise to the top as a man of impact, influence, and income, you must understand that your habit system must not be left unguarded, because you will never rise beyond that. If you're, as a man, if your appetite for women, your appetite for power, I mean, useless popularity, useless influence, power is good with the right character and right purpose and right mission, right? Your appetite for fame, I said that already. Your appetite for alcohol, your appetite for to feed your flesh. If you cannot tame that appetite, forget about influence, impact, and income. Because even on the basis, you cannot sit and read a book for 2 hours, 3 hours every day to build your mental power and intelligence if you don't know how to tame your appetite for enjoyment. Is that true? Anytime you pick a book to read, your flesh is only looking for how to go watch a movie, go do this, go hang out with friends. It takes a certain dimension of taming your appetite for fleshly desires to be a man of impact in your generation. Like I always fondly say, you cannot lead a generation that you think like them and you do the same thing like them. Funny thing I always fondly tell myself, I always say, like, look, the people, you cannot be on social media and hang out the same way everybody hangs out and expect to lead them. You cannot do that. So I would like to say that if you want to lead your generation, find what everybody in your generation is doing and do the opposite. And trust me, it is challenging. Everybody's talking about a new Netflix movie. You have not watched Netflix for the last 2 years. Everybody's talking about this or that. You absolutely have no idea. But like I always say, I prefer for them to come seek me and pay me than to do what they do and end up being like them. So this particular family, they have a ritual playbook that they use for their kids. And I say kids, I'm talking about men that are born in this particular family. And this playbook, they train the men in their family to have control over the following key things: sleep, sleep. Number two, sex. Number three, alcohol. And number four, uncultured popularity. So in this family, follow me carefully. In this family, they train their kids to wake up at a particular time every month for 21 days. It could be 4 a.m., 5 a.m., but they'll train you that, okay, for 21 days, they'll train you. There'll be a house help, and that job's house help for that 21 days is to train that child to wake up at a particular time every morning for 21 days and go to bed at a particular time for that 21 days. They do that month after month to train you to know that sleep is not supposed to control you. You are supposed to control when you go to bed and when you wake up. Okay? Now, about taming appetite for things like alcohol and sex and uncultured things. In this family, they train their kids to do fasting programs. Unlike in Christianity, we fast for spiritual reasons. In this family, they fast to train you to see food and not eat. And when they are eating during dinner or breakfast, you sit on the family table. Everybody else is eating at that time, but you will see the food, but you will not eat. You will smell it, but you will not eat. You know why? They are training him so that in their absence, nobody can influence that child to do what they don't want to do because they have been trained to tame appetite. They will send their kids to go for military training. Yes, go and study. It's a secret. Go and every rich family will always get their children to go for military training, not to join the academy per se, but because in military training they train you on certain things that average training can never give you. What are they doing? What are they doing? They're trying to raise a young man with certain habits that even 99% of men in his generation may never have. And that's why go and look. Go and look at the men who are politicians across different nations. Go and look at the men who are building great companies across different nations. Go and look at top CEOs of banks and go and check where they're coming from. You see the pattern I'm telling you. For those who use different pathways to access that level, when they get the right mentors, the mentors also train them like the rich family train their kids. There needs to be a shift. You have to pay the price as a man to be a man of impact, influence, and income. You don't become a man of influence because of talk. Like I said, you can suddenly become popular, but you can never suddenly become a man of influence. No. There's a price to pay. There's a system to go through, and there's a time to follow. You want to stand and talk, and people in your generation will listen to you. Oh, come on. You don't suddenly wake up to that. You don't suddenly wake up to that. You want to speak and your industry listen as a thought leader. No, you don't suddenly become that. You don't. You don't. You don't. There are certain habits that forms the foundation of your life. Intentional habits are the divine blueprint for success in leadership and influence. My belief is that habit first, excellence follows. Habit first, promotion follows. Habit first, elevation follows. Private system first, public performance will always follow. Hear me very well. Your habits will set you apart. You want to be positioned as a leader in your generation. You want to shape your industry and your generation. You have to get the contagiousness of habits the right way. They're either building your legacy or they are destroying your legacy. You cannot be neutral. You have to pay the price to begin to master the habit that will enable you to dominate your field. You have to master that price. It will cost you. So, how do you form these habits? And we're done with day one. How do you form these habits? Number one, identity clarity. I will explain. How do you form habits that will shift your destiny? Number one, identity clarity. I will explain. Identity clarity. Identity clarity. Right. I didn't know my AC was not on. All right. Identity clarity. You see, like I said, there is a price to pay in building this kind of habit and being a man of influence, impact, and income. There's a price to pay. And when you don't know who you are supposed to be in your generation, you will not be comfortable to pay that price. But when you know your identity, when you know that as far as this generation is concerned, this is my role in this generation, my identity, this is my identity as a person. Because your habits will stick when you begin to do things that flow from the place of who you are, not just what you do. Who are you as a person? 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 Because if you don't know who you are, I bet you will not pay the price to become a man of influence, impact, and income. But when you realize your identity, when you realize that as far as this generation is concerned, as far as this time is concerned, it is not just what I do, but I am this in my generation. And there are people that their purpose, their destinies will not rise if I don't rise into my purpose of who I am. If you are struggling, like I always say that the first sign of anybody who is a chief procrastination officer, there are many people that they are chronic procrastinators. Many of you here, you need to repent from that. Type repent in the chat box if you know. You can procrastinate for Africa. My goodness. You can procrastinate. You can procrastinate reading books. You can procrastinate even doing things that are supposed to shift your income. Many things that you procrastinate. I always say that one major sign that you have not found your purpose and you are not truly convicted with that purpose is that you're a chronic procrastinator. Because I tell you, if you are truly convicted with your purpose, procrastination has no place in your life. I tell you, if you have truly found your identity, you have truly discovered who you are in this generation, procrastination has no place in your life. You will kill it. because your identity will destroy that procrastination. Your purpose will destroy that procrastination because your purpose, it has a personality. Your identity will keep pushing you to begin to do things you're supposed to do to rise to that identity. Who are you in this generation? Have you truly found your identity? Have you truly found your identity? Number two, link to number one, the power of clarity of purpose and vision. You cannot pay the price to form the habits that will shift your destiny if you don't have absolute clarity of your purpose and your vision. Purpose is why you are who you are, and vision is where you are going to from the place of purpose. Vision comes from purpose. My purpose in life is this, based on who I am. Therefore, I need to begin to craft 10-year vision, 20 years vision, 30 years vision based on my purpose and who I am. Because when you define your purpose, it will make habit selection easy. If you are still struggling to form the right habit, maybe you are just excited that you're a person of purpose. You are not truly convicted about that purpose. And when your vision is clear, why? Because vision clarity has the power to destroy or dismantle distractions before they arise. You see that? Because when distractions are arising, your focus is, you begin to live life this way. If this thing is not contributing to my ultimate vision, I am not interested. If this new habit I am developing, if this new habit is not contributing to the vision I have established, I am not interested. We have to come to a place where we are shifting from casual thinking. You're not casual with the things that you think about and you do. And you become intentional about the things that you think about and you do because your purpose is on the line. And here's the funny thing. You can discover purpose and never fulfill that purpose because your private system did not enhance that purpose. You don't just become a person who fulfilled purpose. No. Reese, the person that you have to train to become for your purpose to be fulfilled. You have to do that. You see, for example, my work in training and speaking and consulting has led me to 18 plus countries, 4 continents, met incredible people, powerful people, some wicked people, good people, right? And I know my purpose. I know my vision. But you see, like what I'm doing right now, this is me living my purpose. This is me living my vision. But this training is just 1%. The most easiest thing to do is to talk. The most easiest thing to do is to train. But you see, being able to put a body of knowledge that is practical and relatable that you can deliver to people, that is the hard part. And if I don't have the habit, private habit, because this is public performance, and public performance hinges on private systems, right? So if you are not clear about your purpose and your vision, and you have not come to that place in your journey in life where when you want to do something, your purpose and your vision becomes the benchmark that you use to determine if you should do this or not, then you are still very far in becoming a man of income, influence, and impact as a man. That means you need to come to a place in your journey where you begin to think like every habit is a part of your purpose and vision. Every habit is a major part of your purpose and your vision. You come to a place where you are aligning your habit with your purpose and with your vision. You don't just form contagious habits out of nowhere. No. You begin to form them based on the purpose, the vision, and your identity. Based on the purpose, the vision, and your identity. When you begin to operate from that level, you begin to have superior habits that an average person cannot have. You see that? What I'm trying to say is, for every man under the sound of my voice, in this gentleman summit, after today, come to a place in your walk, in your journey, where you begin to immediately choose, practice, and maintain habits that align with your purpose, with your vision, and with your ultimate identity in this journey of destiny. Clearly begin to define what is your vision and begin to create systems around you that can facilitate the manifestation of those visions. You see that? Now, like I said, I like to read military books a lot. And I was reading one military book, and they were talking about the US Special Forces. These guys are ruthless, tactical, strategic, powerful men. If they say somebody is a US Special Force, fear that person. These are guys that, there was a time that a US citizen was kidnapped in Nigeria one time, and the Nigerian military tried to rescue the person. It did not work. And the US government sent just 5 US forces. They went to that place, rescued the person, and brought it out. That's how those guys are ruthless in execution, right? I like to read books around US Special Forces. And, when they're going for a mission, and funny enough, 99% of US Special Forces are always men, right? That's why I'm using this example because this is a men's conference, right? The US Special Forces, one major thing that they guard in every mission is clarity of mission. So when they're about to form a US Special Force to send to a mission in maybe Africa, Middle East, India, wherever, when they're having a military strategy meeting, they'll put on top of the board ultimate mission, and they will describe the mission. And guess what? Every meeting, every discussion, every action that they are going to have before that mission is aligning to that mission. For example, I read a book and they said there was a mission that they were supposed to go to another continent. And because of the different time zones, they started training the US Special Forces in the United States to start going to bed based on the time zone in that country. For example, if they said they were going for a mission in Africa and the time zone in that country is GMT+1, and they'll start training those US Special Forces to start going to bed at, let's say, 4 p.m. US time, because 4 p.m. is likely what? 9 p.m. Is it 10 p.m. in GMT+1, right? So maybe let's say before 2 weeks to that mission, those US Special Forces will start going to bed at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so that when they enter that country, they automatically adapt to that country. Are you seeing the price they pay? Because of the mission. What I'm asking you is, based on the mission of your life, based on the industry mission you have, are you paying the price to reshape your daily habits, your daily systems to align with the ultimate outcome of your destiny? Are you doing that? Are you doing that? Procrastination is still burying your legacy every single day. You are not seeing it. You are not seeing it. There needs to be a shift, somebody. Is 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 this breaking somebody's head? Type my head is breaking. Because I need to break your head so that there needs to be a shift. You have been too comfortable for long. Type my head is breaking. And trust me, this is not a training for everybody. As I said, this is a gentleman summit of impact, influence, and income. We are not teaching any kind of man. We are raising men that will disrupt their generation. But there needs to be a shift. You have been too comfortable for long as a man. There needs to be a shift. So make sure that you have clarity of purpose and vision. Purpose and vision. Number three, how do you form habits that will contribute to making you a gentleman of influence, impact, and income? One of my favorite points. Establish clear keystone habits. Establish clear keystone habits. Keystone, like a key and then a stone. Establish clear keystone habit. I'll explain the concept. I'll explain the concept. Now, a keystone habit is a core habit that if you establish just one, that one core habit that if you pay the price and establish it, when that habit is established, it will naturally begin to trigger numerous beneficial habits in your life. So you look at your life, you look at your career, you look at the work you do, you look at your destiny, you look at where you're going to, and you say, oh, based on who I am, based on my identity, based on my purpose, based on my vision, based on my industry, based on what I'm building, what is that one habit that if I get right, just one, if I get right, every other habit will fall into place. That's the meaning of establish a clear keystone habit, right? Like, for example, there are many men of God here, and you're going to succeed in ministry if you get your prayer life right, right? Every other thing will fall into place if you get it right. And there are different sectors. I know my sector. My work gets to cut across, right? From consulting, coaching, training, speaking, and ministry. So I have established my own keys to some. I've been able to innovate my own because I looked at what I'm building, where I'm coming from, where I'm going to. I'm like, okay, Joybert, this is a keystone habit that you need to maintain for the rest of your life. As long as this habit is intact, as long as this habit is intact, you will be a force to reckon with in your generation. For me, for me. And one thing I do is that there's a personal code I run by. With this habit, I pay the price every day to give at least 3 hours every day to this habit. I'm not going to tell you because I've crafted across different things, right? It's a unique name and you will not understand because it works for me. But it cuts across reading, writing, praying, different things. But I've just formed that I now call it one habit, right? But you need to find yours. You need to establish your keystone habit as a leader in your generation. You want to be a man of impact, influence, and income. Find that one habit that if you get right and it stays right, it's not a rise and fall habit. No, a habit that if you are going to create impact for 50 years, that habit is there for 50 years. A keystone habit. And as long as that habit is there, as long as you are executing that habit, it has the power, because we're talking on the contagiousness of habit, it has the power to begin to cause other beneficial habits and behaviors to begin to cascade towards that particular habit. For example, let's go back to military guys. In military, especially with the Navy SEALs, they focus on punctuality and gear maintenance. Like in the Navy SEALs, in the US military, they believe that a soldier who is punctual and a soldier who knows how to maintain their equipments like guns, clean the gun, make sure the gun can shoot right and things like that. They came to learn that a soldier who can grow in punctuality and is very meticulous in maintaining equipment that they use in battle, that soldier ends up being excellent across every other discipline as far as their career is concerned. That is their own keystone habit. That's why when you study military, they wake up at a particular time, they make their bed in a particular way. Have you noticed that? There's a particular time that they show up for meetings. They have all of these things. They have a particular time that they go and clean their guns and do that. It's not just about the activity. No, it's a routine that they have established that for a Navy SEAL soldier to be excellent at what they do, if they get punctuality right and they get the meticulous maintenance of their gear or equipment right, this will begin to trigger discipline actions across other areas of their lives. What is yours? What is yours? I also came across this other family, the Rothschild family, one of the richest families in the world. These guys have influence across central banks, men, very rich family, powerful family. In short, they control some nations in the shadows. I'm not going to go further than that, but very powerful family. Now, in the early days of forming this family, they emphasize that every member of this family must be good at record keeping, like basic accounting. Because the Rothschild family, they believe that any of their child that is very good at record keeping, very good at financial management, that child will always get every other thing right in their life. That was their own keystone habit. What is your own keystone habit? Based on your purpose, based on your vision, based on your industry, based on what you're pursuing to achieve, what is your keystone habit? Somebody you need to go and delete and replace. You need to go and begin to destroy some destructive micro habits that are destroying your life right now. Begin to free yourself of those bandwidth and institute the keystone habits that you need for your destiny. You need it. You have been watching movies since you were born. How far have you gone in life? Since social media came, you spend 4 hours, 5 hours social media. You are not an entertainer. You are not a this. You are not a that. You are watching status. You are watching feed. You are watching all of that. How is that helping you? How has that helped you? How has that helped you? I always, I write a lot. I write on social media, but I always say, sometimes I can do just 2 minutes on Facebook. I open, I post, I close, I'm gone. Read it, problem. If you don't read it, I don't care. Life goes on. I'm not supposed to be there. Fortunately, people read it and they're impacted. That is good. But I'm not going to spend time there to be feeding, the flesh unnecessarily. You watch pictures, you watch what people are arguing about. They argue. That's why you hardly ever hear me. If you also follow me on social media, you hardly hear me putting my word on what is people are talking about publicly, right? Because again, you hardly see people who are influential at that level doing all of that nonsense. They either create the news and disappear and allow the masses and the lower class, the unemployed, to be arguing about it, and they are gone. They create attraction and they are gone. You will argue about their names, call their names, they will never hear it, they will never see it. That's your problem, and life goes on. You need to create space for that. Number 4, how do you build habits that will definitely shift you as a man of influence, impact, and income? The power of environmental consistency. Very important. Look, man, research has proven that most men are being destroyed by the types of friends that they have. The power of environmental consistency. You see, there are some habits that you can only form through environmental consistency, through the context where you find yourself. You cannot always be in the wrong environment with the wrong people and expect to build habits that will make you a man of impact, influence, and income. It doesn't work like that because your environment contributes to the habits that you start, you keep, and you sustain. When you start changing context, habit formation start following. Who you listen to, who you follow, where you sit, where you go, who you hear voices from every single day consistently will always contribute to the habits you're forming that are either building your legacy or destroying your legacy. Because environment shapes habits sustainably. So either the environment where you are is shaping the habits that will destroy you, or the environment where you are right now is shaping the habits that will build you for good. Contextual consistency will always accelerate lasting habit formation. There are many young men that have ended up being thieves and armed robbers because of the neighborhood they grew in. That was not their destiny. That was not their destiny. That was not their destiny. You need to intentionally pay the price. Begin to surround yourself with achievers who can reinforce achieving habits in your life and behaviors and contribute to your rising as a person. Number 5, intentional design. You're going to build habits that will turn you into a disruptor in your generation, into a man of impact, influence, and income. Intentionally design the environment, especially your private environment. Intentionally design your private environment that can facilitate your habit formation. Because effective habit formation relies significantly on the intentional design you have set around yourself and the environmental triggers around yourself. You can do what I like to call trigger placement. What are the various trigger placements around you? It could be alarms. It could be, your calendar. Anything that can solidify your consistent action to participate in doing things that will enhance you. You need to make sure that you pay the price to do that. What is the kind of environment that you have designed around yourself? What is the kind of environment that you have designed around yourself? Okay? Awesome. All right. So it is important that as a people, we consciously begin to create that environment, that system that can intentionally ensure that we are building a life that can lead to the breakthrough that we are supposed to see. Now, for example, let me give an example. You see, I love movies, right? And I used to watch movies a lot. For example, when Prison Break came out, no, when it came out, when I watched it in 2009 or 2010, I watched Prison Break from night to night the next night, 24 hours straight. I did not sleep. That's how much I used to love movies. I still love movies, right? But if I did not create a design around me that I don't watch movies at all now. If it's not a documentary that I'm learning that is directly related to the work I do, you will not see me watching it. If it's not a movie that I know, that for example, I can watch movies like The Godfather, right? Movies around strategy, right? I recently finished a movie, took me a couple of years, Raymond Reddington, right? The Blacklist, the strategy, the perspective in that movie, powerful, right? So if you see me watching a movie, trust me, know that it's book or is strategy oriented, tactical oriented, military. Like there's something I'm going to document around it and maybe enhance my training strategies and the things I do in the work I do and things like that. But I had to create that environment where you see, if you see me using, I have one of my friends, I say, give me a Netflix account. He will give me, I watch a movie, and I'll tell him, change the password. Because for me, he will change it because of me, right? Because I don't trust myself if I have the password. That's the truth. See, one challenge that many people do is that they like to trust themselves too much. Because you see, trust yourself, but get the sense I'm talking about. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to intentionally create the environment around you that can facilitate your destiny manifestation. Create it. Intentionally begin to create that design that can facilitate your development of habits that will change your destiny. And then lastly, number 6, institute rigorous accountability structures. This is where the power of communities or mentorship comes in. You see, funny enough, one thing I discovered early on, right? I have met politicians, senators, billionaires, millionaires, influential people in my work. Funny enough, I have never met any of those people that don't have either a set of coaches that they respond to or hold them accountable, or a mentor they respect, or a pastor that they respect. I've never met any. And I'll sometimes, I always intentionally ask, or sometimes just in a private meeting and discussion, they'll mention that, oh, you see, I have a meeting with my mentor once a month, and we talk about this and this and this. What about the US president, the current US president, Donald Trump? I know the person he submit to as a mentor. You see, you could mention there are people they submit to. Because why do they do that? Because they understand the power of establishing a rigorous accountability structure around them. Because also there is you see, it's a two-way thing. At the bottom, when you are still starting level trying to grow, if you don't have somebody who can challenge you and rebuke you when you are lazy or procrastinating, you will be so lazy and procrastinate and end up failing in life. Same as at the top, if you don't have somebody who can also rebuke you and counsel you because you now have too much influence or some money and things like that, you are not careful, you can recklessly do things that will destroy what you've been building for years. You get the perspective. So if you as a man, you're trying to build impact and influence and income, and you don't have a good, rigorous accountability structure around you, there are things you cannot achieve. And also, there are some things you would never learn because by design, like for example, by design and the work I do, there are things I know that an average man cannot know. Because my work puts me in a place where I can access some insider information that an average young person cannot know, or an average even older people cannot know. Like I taught the other day about how to become 8 ways to become a powerful person in your country. And so reached out to me and said, as old as I am, I did not know how to become a person of power in my country. Because it's not your place to know if you are not called in that light per se. And there are things that you know that I don't know if I don't relate with you. And one thing that being under an accountability structure, a good one, is that it will give you things that Google will not give you. It will give you things that an average book will not give you. Do you guys know that there are books that are never sold in public? They only sell them in private circles and it ends there. Why? Because the rich and the wealthy and the powerful, they like to stay rich and powerful, and they like the poor and the middle class to stay poor and in the middle class. Unfortunately, that's how the world works. So if you don't know how to break into their circle or to work with them or whatever, you will always be excluded from the game. Right? That's the world. Sadly, that's how the world is designed to work. And your fastest way to rise to that place or to know what they know in order so that you can begin to achieve what they are achieving from where you are is to begin to either be part of accountability structures. Like, for example, there are men out there right now that if they go through this men's summit, their life will change for good. But you see, either for one reason or another, they have not heard about it and they are not here. And they may literally remain the same years after, not because that is their destiny, but because they did not access the light or the wisdom or the knowledge that would have caused a shift in their destiny for good. You get the perspective. So, paying the price to create a good accountability structure, it could be just making up your mind that I am going to have a good mentor. I am going to be part of a good community. I'm going to be this and to be that and to be that. It shifts everything. Why? Because high impact habits thrive in accountable environments. Let me tell you something. If you put yourself in an accountable environment and respect the laws of that environment, there are things that you can no longer struggle with. For example, I have a I have a couple of mentorship programs I run, and one of my mentorship programs, the mentees are challenged every Sunday evening. You send me your top 4 goals that you must achieve for the week. And every Saturday evening, you send me the feedback of what you did to achieve the goals and the result for those goals. And as long as you're my mentee, you have to keep doing that. That is one of the accountability structures for that. And I know mentees that over the years they have achieved mind-blowing things because every week they are on their toes. Because you have that consciousness that, hey, I need to send Dr. Joybert what I've achieved for Saturday. And if you are lying on it, you're not lying to me. You're lying to yourself and to your future self. So they don't have any reason to lie. So I prefer they'll come and tell me, oh, I achieved 130%. Yes, I like it that way. At least the part that you are conscious. You are conscious throughout the week and you did your best to achieve for yourself and for the sake of accountability. That is good enough for me. And funny enough, those who do that, every week they consistently rise in their manifestations. Why? Because as long as you are thinking on your toes every week, procrastination has no place. So you always end up achieving. You need to institute as a man a rigorous accountability structure around your destiny. To be the kind of friends you have, the mentors you work with, the coaches you pay, the kind of WhatsApp community to belong to. That is one of the communities, Peak Performance Academy. We always do morning school. 4 a.m., people wake up, we do trainings on different things, and they participate. It's not just about the training, it's about training people to build discipline and to beat, to train themselves to know that, hey, I am the one in charge of you sleep. Sleep, you don't define me. I define how, we rest, right? And I have had countless testimonies from people who have been part of the Peak Performance Academy, and we do morning school and they wake up at 4 a.m. and we do trainings and coaching on different things. You see, because when you're in that kind of an environment, It's rigorous, yes. It's challenging, yes. It pushes you. That is the concept. You are supposed to be pushed to manifest your greatest manifestation as far as destiny and life is concerned. It's a roundup. The contagiousness of habits will make you or destroy you. I decided to teach on this on day one of this summit because I kept on asking myself, what is that one thing that if any man gets right and they stay with it, they cannot end up failing in destiny? Among a few things, it is the contagiousness of habits. What I'm saying to all of us is, if we as men from different sectors, different countries, different continents, if we can pay the price to get the contagiousness of habits right, give yourself time. Give yourself time. Like I said, you don't suddenly become a person of authority, impact, influence, and prosperity. No, you design and you architect your way towards that place. You can suddenly become popular, but you don't suddenly become a man of power, authority, impact, and influence. And what we have handled this day one, if you go through it, you took some notes, and you pay the price to apply, I bet you, when we met 12 months after, 24 months after, or if we met in an airport somewhere, you say, I am here because I practiced this and my life changed. I believe that day one blessed you, it challenged you, it caused a shift. Tomorrow, we're going to take it deeper. I'll be teaching on governing your invisible economy as a man. There is an economy that if you don't govern, forget about the financial economy on the outside. We'll handle that tomorrow. Don't miss it. It will bless you. All right. Were you blessed?